keep it real with ya.
Hi everybody, it's me, Minu, back again with another video about chronic illness. This time I want to talk about Proctalgia Fugax, yeah, and Paradoxical Puborectalis syndrome. And yeah, there's a few little, CWs in the last video. This video, I think I want to do a trigger warning. Now I want to state in the video as well as put in the stuff because I'm gonna use some language that might seem very graphic to some people, so just warning about that. But I did talk in another video about trauma and abuse and asexuality and how I'm just sex repulsed in general. I have a weird relationship with my genitals. Like in the last video, I talked about my period just trying to wreck my life. I thought that was trying to wreck my life. That ain't what's trying to wreck my life. I had some other shit come up that's trying to wreck my life. And I did not know. I thought I knew pain. And then the universe said, think again, bitch. A little brief overview of just a little background. Because I grew up in a poor Black family, we obviously don't eat the best. So we have like a heavy meat diet, lots of carbs, lots of meats, very few vegetables. And I'm saying this because to say that constipation is kind of common for me and people in my family, just because we don't eat right. So we don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. We just didn't. So I'm just saying that as a little bit of a background, and it's going to make sense later. So when I was in college, my first year in college, literally after the second semester, after my freshman semester ended, that summer I got a job. It was my first job outside of school, outside of high school. I had a little job I'll talk about in another video, but it was my first college job. It was $7.25 an hour, which for me was great because I was making $0 an hour. So I was like, yeah, $7.25, yeah, give me that. It was a summer job, and we were going to be doing like a kind of mentorship thing where we were going to have these middle school and high school students, and we were going to like be kind of like teachers, and we was gonna like read books with them and do little activities and stuff. So it was like a summer program thing, and I was like, okay, cool. So I was the only person from my college in it. The other people in it were from another college, like a bigger state school, whereas I went to a smaller liberal arts college. So I was the only person there in that group. So little background around the group. You can really tell the difference between someone who went to a liberal arts college and someone who went to like a state school where they didn't have to focus on anything liberal arts like, because the ideas these people have is just crazy. So, and not to say that they were just a bad group of people. They're not. Like, some of them were really, really nice to me. But I'm just going to talk about the type of ideas these people had. So some of the ideas you run across with people who didn't go and like study anything regarding like race and gender, they don't believe in rape culture. So they say, women claim rape because they don't want anyone to know that they were a slut and they were, just trying to use sex to get money or whatever. They would say things like that to me. They would, they didn't seem very open about, gay people. They didn't seem very open about social justice issues in general. They didn't care too much about the kids. They were just there for a paycheck. But the kids like them more than me anyway, because I'm who I am. But yeah, so they were just very much like, they didn't have a lot of good, social justice-y ideas. And it didn't really hurt me that much until it got to, I guess, the fact that I kind of cared more about some of the issues that the kids were dealing with regards to like poverty and, gang violence and things like that. I cared more, and bullying. I cared more about stuff like that, and I wanted to help them with stuff like that, whereas my colleagues were kind of like, fuck them kids, whatever. We don't give two shits about them. We're here to get that check. So it was a weird group that I was with, that they didn't really care about the stuff that they kind of try to inspire you to when you go through like your training. They're like, we're here for the kids and the vision of, having them read these books that are relatable to them and their struggles, and then these people didn't really give a fuck. So that was one stressor. The other stressor was my very first job. I did let my manager know that I had bipolar disorder, which I guess she told me that I should not have told her about that, which the bipolar disorder wasn't ever really an issue in the job, but I just wanted to let her know, like, hey, this is something that I deal with. But apparently she didn't want to hear about it. And then obviously you had the kids, the middle and high school kids running off, you know, sneaking off to have sex and, you know, acting a fool, getting into fights, dealing with gang stuff, dealing with bullying. They and obviously, you know, like, you know, we in the hood. These kids don't give a fuck about being in a summer camp where they have to read books. Like, I understand where they come from, because I was the youngest person in the group. These kids were middle and high school, like 17 years old at the max, and I was sitting there like 19 years old. So I understood where they were coming from more than the other people, but it was still pretty stressful to try and be an authority figure over these kids who were only, like, some of them were only a couple years younger than me, so they didn't want to listen to what I had to tell them. But whatever, it was my first job. I was going through a lot of stuff then. I was technically homeless. Me and my mom were like sharing a bed at my aunt's house. It wasn't fun. I didn't have a car, so it was a struggle to get to work. I had to rely on other people to help me get to work. So there was just a lot of things that were very stressful about that point in my life. And then one day, I don't remember what day it was. I don't remember when it started, but one day I just started noticing that, like, my butt hurt. You know, and I say it like that because it was just like, you know, when you first have stuff like that, you think like, oh, am I constipated? Like, what's going on? Like, it started off very slowly. It was just like, oh man, you know, maybe I've been sitting too long. Let me get up and do some stuff. But at some point, and I don't remember the point when it got really, really bad, like the tipping point. I just remember afterwards. But at some point, it got so bad that I was like, oh my God, like I need ibuprofen. I need Lortab. I need oxycodone. I need something. This shit hurt. Like, I'm in a lot of pain and I'm trying to do my job, but I'm just like hurting and hurting and hurting, and I don't know what to do about it. And my family didn't know what to do about it either. They were confused. They was like, oh, here's some pain meds, take that. And the pain meds wasn't working, you know? So it was just getting worse and worse and worse, until one day it was so bad that I was like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do with how bad it was. So I ended up missing work because I was just in a lot of pain. And I can't really describe, the only way I can describe what this pain feels like, and this is why I did the warning for grab, it felt like being raped by needles anally. It felt like someone took a bunch of needles in their hand, did this, and just went over and over and over again. And it was never ending. And I couldn't stand, I couldn't sit, I could only lay down and just like scream in pain because it just hurted so bad. And naturally, if someone's doing that to you, your body's like clenching up and trying to get away from it. I couldn't get away from it. It was in me. So it was just really, really bad. And I was still trying to maintain, you know, I was still trying to go to work. I was still trying to pretend that everything was okay and that it wasn't so bad. Because I knew from dealing with my period that going to the hospital wasn't going to fix anything. I did end up going to the doctor, but they didn't really know what was wrong with me. So it was just like, well, whatever. And so then one day I was at work. We were actually at a church that I think was going to be used as a school at some point. So we were at a church, and you know, the kids was doing their stuff in the gym and everything like that. And I ended up having to go. I was like, oh, I'm in pain. I need to just get away from everybody. I don't need anybody to see me in pain. You know, you don't want your job to see you in pain. So I go over to this other room where I'm by myself, and I just lay down and I just like, please just pass. Please just pass. And it didn't. It got worse and worse and worse to the point where I could not contain, you know, like my screams of pain. And then somebody who worked there heard me, and they thought that some kids were having sex. So they snuck it. They came through and saw me down there, and they was like, "What's going on? What's going on? What do you need?" And I didn't know. I was incoherent with how much pain that I was in. Like, I was just screaming, and I was like, I don't know, I can't do this. Like, I can't, I'm not gonna be able to make it home. Like, do I call my mom? Like, what? I don't know what to do. So at one point I was like, yeah, call my mom. Which she wasn't really gonna be much of a help, but at least she could have came and took me home. But I was like, call my mom. And then they was like really, really concerned, and they was like, do you need some ibuprofen? And I was like, that's not gonna work. I've tried that. It doesn't help at all unless I take like a shit ton of it to where it's like dangerous. And then they was like, you need to go to the hospital. So they called an ambulance. And so the paramedics arrived. And like at this point, like there was people around me, but I couldn't even focus on who all was around me because I was in that much pain. And the paramedics showed up, and I tried to explain to them what was happening. They was like, where's the pain? Where's the pain? And it's so embarrassing because I'm like, it's in my butt. It's in my butt. I don't know what's wrong. And so they took me, they put me up in the ambulance. They, you know, injected me, drew my blood, did all this stuff. And they sent me to the hospital. They was like, you want to go to the closest hospital, or you want to go to, do you want to go to a good hospital, basically? Because we were in the hood, and so the closest hospital was trash, but I was in so much pain, I was incoherent. I was like, yeah, take me to wherever the closest place is. Now, I had gone to the hospital previously for this issue. I went to a good hospital. So when I went to the good hospital, the lady was like, this is very rare, but I think you have Proctalgia Fugax. And when she told me that, I was like, what does that mean? And she said, basically, it's these spasms in your rectum that is causing you all this pain, and you're describing it as this sharp stabbing pain. This is what this is. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but this is what this is. I said, okay, now I know, but what do I do about it? Because there's very, very little information on the internet about what the hell that is. So when I got to this shitty hospital, I waited hours to be seen, first of all, because that's how hood hospitals are. You just got to wait hours to be seen. Finally, this doctor comes in, and he's like, they've taken my blood. They've, you know, they're like, he's like, what's going on? I describe to him what's going on. I say, I have Proctalgia Fugax, thinking that he as a doctor would hear that and be like, oh, this is how I treat you, right? No, he laughed at me. He said, is that made up? Did you make that up? And I was like, no, nigga, I didn't make it up. I heard it from another doctor that told me about it, but they didn't know how to treat it. They was just like, this is what you have, but I can't help you. Here's some oxycodone. And he was like, well, I don't know what that is, but we'll give you some morphine. So they gave me morphine, and my head felt all weird and everything. Almost immediately after they gave me morphine, I was back in pain, screaming in pain. It didn't do anything. And then I was like, can you inject the morphine directly into my butt? Because this is where the pain is, and it has not stopped. And then my boss came, which was not fun, and she didn't understand what was going on. She just thought the doctors would figure it out. And I was like, they have no idea what's going on. So they was like, we gave you morphine. You can go home now. And I was like, I'm still in pain, though. And they was like, we can't do nothing about that. We gave you morphine. Bye. So I got sent home. Nothing. So later on, my coworkers, because I had no idea what was wrong with me still. I had no idea what was wrong with me. I had no idea what happened. My coworkers were like, well, the kids didn't see you, but we heard that you had like pain in your butt. And they would make jokes. They're like, oh, you're having anal sex? It's probably because you're having anal sex. And I'm like, which again, at the time I didn't know I was ace, but like, no, nigga, I ain't having no anal sex. I'm not even having vaginal sex. My ass hurt. That don't even sound fun to me to do something like that with what I'm going through. So they didn't really know. And then I just had to go through that with that job. Like, it never got resolved. And so over the years that I was in college, I went to doctor after doctor. One doctor was like, I have no idea. And these are gastroenterologists, so directly butt doctors. One doctor was like, I have no idea what's going on. Go somewhere else. And then another doctor was like, you have irritable bowel syndrome. And I was like, I mean, yes and no, because the spasms do make it hard to go to the bathroom because I'm in so much pain. But I don't think that that was the cause. I think that that's the result of what it is. Whatever. I accepted what he said. And I was like, okay, give me something for that. He gave me a shit ton of lidocaine to put up there, which did help. It did help numbing the area and stuff, but it really didn't stop the spasms. It just helped me be numb enough to go to the bathroom. They did a colonoscopy. Nothing was wrong. They did another colonoscopy just to charge me more money. Nothing was found other than a couple hemorrhoids, which the hemorrhoids, I don't even know if I've ever had hemorrhoids in my life until up to that point, which I fully believe the spasms and the pain was what caused the hemorrhoids to grow. But had the hemorrhoids, they was like, we got rid of the hemorrhoids. The hemorrhoids were not the problem. The hemorrhoids were a symptom of the problem. The irritable bowel syndrome was not the problem. That was a symptom of the problem. Like I said, we eat crazy in my family. I was the ice cream and chili person. Like, I could eat whatever the fuck I wanted to eat and still go to the bathroom, with the occasional times that I would be constipated. The irritable bowel syndrome was not the problem. It was the symptom of the problem. So then I went to him multiple times. They got me for a bunch of money that fucked up my credit. Left them, went to another doctor. This doctor said, I went to another doctor because I started having a lot of stomach pains in addition to the rectal pains. And I went to him, I'm like, I'm having these rectal pains and I'm having these stomach pains. He said, here's some Prilosec for the stomach pain. Bye. Now, I don't want to be the one to say this, but I'm going to have to be the one to say this. I've had a lot of bad experiences with black doctors. And each of these doctors that have done me wrong have been black men, with the exception of the doctor in the shitty hospital who was a white man. But each of the gastroenterologists that did me dirty were black men. And my family, but they trusted these guys, you know. And I'm like, I'm sure if I had a normal issue, like if I just had hemorrhoids, or if I had IBS or diabetes or cholesterol, whatever was going on, I'm sure they would have handled my situation fine. But my situation was none of those things. And so I literally had to go through college, not only dealing with my period cramps, but also dealing with the periods where I was just being all of this rectal pain. I had periods where I could not leave my bed. You know, like I could barely make it to the bathroom. People would have to bring me food. I would miss class, you know, because I was just in pain all day long and just, you know, shoving a bunch of lidocaine up my butt, trying to help in some way. It got to the point where I had figured out how to like combine some stuff to where if I shoved it up my butt, it would paralyze me from the waist down. And I was like, anything's better than pain. But obviously people were concerned. They was like, you don't want to lose your ability to walk. And I was like, bruh, I'm in so much pain right now. I don't care if I lose my ability to be awake. Like, I just wanted to stop. That's just what I had to deal with over and over and over again. And even trying to explain it to like my professors, it didn't really make sense. It also seemed more like a TMI type of situation where it's weird to tell people that you have pain in your ass. Like, literally, like it's so embarrassing to say that. And even though I had the word Proctalgia Fugax, which made it sound more official to call it Proctalgia Fugax, still, when you translate that, it just means like pain in your ass, you know? So it doesn't really help much. Even when I'm telling doctors about it, it doesn't really help much. I think at one point my gynecologist, the male gynecologist, understood what it was, and he was like, hey, you need Valium for that, but I'm not gonna give it to you because that's not my job. I do the vagina. So I was like, man, this is some bullshit. And another thing that was a big problem was when I would have my period cramps, they would set off the spasms because they're in the same area. So I'd be getting double teamed, super amount of pain where, you know, ibuprofen could help the uterus, but it couldn't help the butt. And lidocaine would help the butt, but it wouldn't help the uterus. So it was just pain on pain on pain on pain all the freaking time. I don't know how I managed to graduate college, honestly. And so it wasn't until after I graduated college, honestly, it wasn't until last year, I sat down and I researched gastroenterologists. I researched things around Proctalgia Fugax to try and find like a specialty in that area. And I found this gastroenterologist in this white area of town. And I was like, okay, if anybody's gonna help me, it's gonna be this person. They were kind of on the younger side. So they had recently left a school. So that kind of made me feel like, okay, you recently left school, so you probably learned some more of the new stuff versus the older people who they just have the things that they practice on and they never go back to school. So maybe you can, you know, maybe this is going to be better, because the other people were like these old black men who probably hadn't been to school in like 10, 20 years. Maybe there were some new developments that they didn't know about. So this woman was an Indian woman. And I was like, okay, well, her being a woman, she's going to be more accepting of like, you know, my hesitation around examinations and stuff. So I go to her and and she's asking me these questions. I'm telling her about all the different doctors I've gone to by name, all the different, stuff that I've had done to test what was going on. And she basically tells me everything those gynecologists was doing was wrong. The medication they were giving you was wrong because they were giving me like oxycodone and stuff for the pain, which worked, but then I was constipated because that's what those do to you. She was like, everything they gave you is wrong. These diagnoses are wrong. You need to be tested. You need to have your muscles tested. So the muscles in your rectum need to be tested because you're having muscle spasms. So the issue is not going to be your intestines. It's not going to be a colonoscopy. It's not going to be a stool sample. You know what I mean? It's going to be looking at your muscles and why they are spasming. And there are specific tests for those. And I'm like, why the fuck these other people didn't do that? It's obvious I'm having a muscle spasm. And they never thought to look at my muscles. So she refers me to this doctor where I go to him in a hospital. And he does all these different tests about how strong the muscles in my rectum are. And now this was a man. And in true man fashion, one of the first things he did when I had my pants down was go, he just shoved his finger up my ass without saying anything, without preparing me for it. And I was like, of course you would do that. As a man, just think that it's okay to do that. And he shoves his finger in and he's like, wow, you are tight. Man, y'all be making it really, really hard. Like, I be trying, but y'all ain't trying. Y'all make it hard as fuck to trust y'all with these things. But yeah, so he does that. He does the finger. He puts some kind of rod inside me that can measure how strong my squeezes are, to like measure how strong my muscles are. He does multiple things inside me to measure that. And then he does this thing where he like tries to insert some paste inside of my rectum to test how I have a bowel movement. That's where everything went wrong as fuck. And he was asking me while I was doing these tests, like, have you ever been sexually abused in your rectum? And I was like, no. Have you ever had anal sex? No. Have you ever experimented with anything down there? No. I don't put nothing up there but lidocaine. And he was like, you've never had any surgeries? And I'm like, no. He's like, he was very suspicious that it has something to do with abuse, which again, I don't know my whole memory history or whatever. Could be, I don't know. But he was very, very suspicious that that's what it was. He was like, are you safe right now? Are you in a place where you feel safe? Is anyone hurting you? Like, he was literally asking me this as like a 23, 24-year-old woman. And I was like, no. And he was like, I don't see anything physically that could be the cause of why you're having this. It has to be something going on, you know, trauma-wise. And I was like, I don't know. So when he went to do the paste, just like he did with his finger, he just went and just shoved it in there. And that was a problem because he had already been shoving shit up in me. So when he did that, everything locked up. Like, it didn't want to do anything. He could barely get in there. He was trying to squeeze the paste in. I was so tight at that point. Like, I was like a vice grip. And he couldn't even get the paste in. So they was trying to help me calm down. But it had literally got to the point where, and he literally was alternating. He would like shove his finger in there, and then he would shove the thingy in there, and then he would pull that out, shove his finger back in and try and open me up some, and then shove the thing. Like, he was not concerned at all about like keeping me calm. And like the women nurses were there, and I was like, I literally almost kicked him in the face because he was just doing too much. And so they were like, they pulled him away, they stepped back, he stepped back, and I just like sat up and I just tried to breathe. And then he was like, I just got to get enough paste in here so you can push it out. So we finally were able to get the paste in there. But he was like, you know, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm like, nigga, what you been doing this whole time? Come on now. Don't lie. Don't lie. Shoving things into people aggressively when I tell you what the pain that I'm going through is, and you already being suspicious that I've had some kind of trauma with this that I'm not telling you about, and you think that you're not hurting me? Please. So they put you on this thing, which is like it's like an MRI, but it's a toilet. So it's looking at the insides of your butt to see the whole process, like to look at your lower intestines and your rectum to see how the muscles are doing and how they release the bowel movement. So as I was sitting there, we tried a couple times. I couldn't push anything out. I was just gridlocked in the pelvis, like nothing was moving. And I was trying, and he literally showed me on the MRI screen what was going on. And so he said, this muscle right here called the Puborectalis is the problem. Because apparently when you poop, the Puborectalis, which is wrapped around your lower intestine, that is supposed to keep you from shitting your pants. But when it's time to go to the bathroom, it relaxes and then you can do it. And he said that muscle wrapped around your rectum is like a vice grip right now. It's not letting anything go through. And so he said that what you need to do for this is you need to go to physical therapy to help you learn how to relax that muscle. And he says until you relax that muscle, you're going to continue having spasms. You're going to have problems going to the bathroom because it's just not happening. And so he told me what it was. It was Paradoxical Puborectalis syndrome, also known as non-relaxing puborectalis syndrome. So basically, and as I like to describe to people who are like, what the fuck is that? That puborectalis muscle puts my sphincter in like a chokehold and it won't let go. And that means that if I do end up going to the bathroom, like forcing my way through it, it's gonna just, it'll force it. I can force it open, but then it's gonna come right back. So it's going to be forced open, snap back, forced open, snap back every time I try to go to the bathroom. Or it would just be snap tight the whole time and I won't be able to go to the bathroom for days. And so as I was going through my physical therapy, my gastroenterologist said that she would prescribe me a bunch of meds that would help make my bowel movements as loose as possible so that they can pass without any pain. And so I take so many fucking medication at this point. Some of the things that I have specifically for this issue, I take Valium that can help relax that muscle. She's prescribed me muscle relaxers to help relax that muscle. Sometimes I got a double team of Valium and the muscle relaxers. In all honesty, I have something called lactulose, which is like Miralax, but stronger, that helps just pull all the water into the poop so that it can come out like super soft, so that I'm not pushing as much, I'm not straining as much, because the easier the bowel movement, the less likely I'm going to be having this go on. So instead of this that I thought was happening, what's really happening is this. So that's what the spasm is doing. Let me see, like that. That's my rectum, right? Okay, see, that's my rectum, right? Which to my hypersexual family sounded fun. They was like, oh, like Kegels. Yeah, sex will be great with that. No, bitch, this shit hurt. And when your muscles tighten up that bad, it really, really hurts. And it can also, the spasms will also trigger the period cramps because they're in the same area. So when I went to the physical therapist, she explained to me that the puborectalis muscle isn't just in your rectum, it's in your whole pelvic floor. So when she did a vaginal exam, she saw that when I had spasms in my rectum, I also was spasming in my uterus as well. I just couldn't tell as much because I felt the pain more in the rectum. So I saw that physical therapist multiple times for weeks, where we did all types of pelvic floor exercises to try and get things under control. I started skipping my period with my birth control because I couldn't handle it. They were just setting each other off. I was trying to eat as healthy as possible to make sure everything moves smoothly out of me. I ended up having to leave that that physical therapist, because my insurance decided they don't fuck with them no more. And then now they trying to charge me like $6,000-$7,000, and I'm like, that's some bullshit. So then I started going to another hospital where I started seeing this other therapist, she's like a women empower women type of physical therapist. Everything's inside of you, you know, where she taught me a lot of like deep breathing, and she was like, the biggest thing is to manage your stress, because that's going to trigger everything. And I was like, you know what, you're right. I'm stressed out as hell all the time, and I'm especially stressed about my uterus and my butt. So we worked on a lot of that. We worked on a lot of different ways to like stretch out the muscles. So the first physical therapist I went to did do anal stuff because she was treating it at the source. The second physical therapist was like, no anal, all vaginal. That's the only thing we need to do. She was like, I can feel everything from your vagina anyway. And she could tell that my vagina was like unnecessarily tight. And we worked a lot on loosening them. We worked a lot on different exercises that I have to do every day to like loosen them and stretch them out. And she was like, probably the reason why you couldn't handle the Mirena was because of the fact that your pelvic floor is so tight that it just kind of like choked that Mirena until it got shifted into the wrong position and had to be taken out. I kind of like this physical therapist. I've made a lot of progress on it to where I'm not having spasms anymore. She a little iffy when it comes to my feelings about sex, and she thinks that once we fix my uterus and my pelvic floor that I'm going to be all for it again. And I'm just like, no, thank you. But she has helped me to where as of today, I have not had a spasm in probably like a month, maybe a little bit longer. I think I had a mini spasm with some pain, but I haven't had full-on spasms for several months now, and I'm so happy about that because I don't even know what to do with myself when I'm not in pain. Like, it's crazy. But I'm still on a bunch of different medications to make sure that my bowel movements are as smooth as possible so that I don't trigger anything. If I ever have a problem where I get constipated, then it's going to trigger these again, because you're going to have the poop sitting there and your body's going to be like, hey, push that out. And the other part of your body's going to be like, no. And then it's just going to be like, well, we just confused again. So we're going to start doing this again. Because that's what it wants to do. She said that like it just wants to spasm. And you got to get to a point where its first response is not to spasm. So even if I have a difficult bowel movement, my body's first response should not be to spasm, hopefully. I did have to request accommodations at work because I'm in a job right now that really controls my time, like when I can go to the bathroom, when I can take breaks. And so I had to request an accommodation to have a longer break so that I can use the bathroom without stressing about it. That took a bit of a minute, but now it's in effect. So one of the big things that I've learned about not just this issue, but also with other pain issues that I've had, I just randomly have like aches and pains in my body that are usually probably likely related to trauma and how that lives in your body and causes you to feel pains. But especially in the genital area, I definitely do believe that trauma causes me to have a lot of stress around that. But also as somebody with a lot of anxiety who's stressed all the time, that also causes your body to be in this hyper state where everything's tightened up and I'm holding the stress in my pelvis, as my physical therapist likes to say. And so my goal is to be less stressed, do more deep breathing, and like do more relaxation activities, and to stretch out those muscles as much as possible so that I don't have to have this situation where I'm so stressed that this happens. I do think that the reason it started was because I was in my first real job and there was all these different things going wrong in my life, so it wasn't easy at all. That caused me to get to such a moment of stress where my body just said, you know what? Fuck you. My body just said, fuck you and everything you care about and everything you want to do with your life. This is what we own now. And I am very much an advocate of your body. Listen to your body. When your body tells you something wrong, something wrong. My body told me that I was in a shitty job. And also when I was in another shitty job after I graduated college, my body reacted the same way, where I was in extreme amounts of pain with the spasms and the period cramps, to where I would have to leave work all the time because I was in so much pain, and be heavily medicated with between muscle relaxers and 800 milligram ibuprofen and Valium, like all of these crazy things. My body is so sensitive now. Like if I'm in a situation where I'm too stressed, my body's going to react. And I didn't mention this in my video about my period, but stress also affects that, to the point where when I'm stressed out, I do bleed heavier. Like a crazy amount heavier. Like I be concerned sometimes, but also those spasms really start up, and it's like my body telling me, I'm sick of your shit. You want to stay in a stressful situation, you want to stay in a situation where you're not happy, where you feeling bad, I'm about to fuck your life up until you listen to me and what I got to say. So long story short, I got to take care of my mental and my physical health. That has to come before anything, because if I try to put anything before that, my body's going to fight back and say, nope, we not having it. Oh, you want to put your job before me? No, bitch. Oh, you want to put your relationship before me? No, bitch. You know, like, my body will react. Like, my body does not give a fuck about what I'm trying to do. It does not give a fuck about who I'm trying to see, what I'm trying to accomplish. If I don't take care of my body, they gonna fuck my life up in whichever way they feel like it. So I have to do a lot of work around making sure I'm eating right, exercising, protecting my energy, protecting my mental health, protecting my physical health, and not putting myself in a situation where I'm going to be stressed or mistreated, or upset, or have a lot of anxiety or depression, because if I do, my body will fight back. And I'm saying this and I'm repeating this because y'all, some of y'all don't want to listen to your body right now, because it's easy to ignore your body, especially if you've been through some type of trauma. It's easy to ignore the feelings in your body, but you don't want to ignore those, because one day your body gonna say, I've had enough of your shit. And if you don't want to listen to me, I'm shutting everything down until you do. And you don't want to be in shutdown mode. So please just listen to your body. Please take care of it. If you in a situation in your body like, I don't feel right, just leave. You in a bad job, your body say you don't feel right, find another job. I know it's hard, but you got to go start looking now, because you do not want to be in a situation where your body decides that they don't like you anymore and they're going to punish you because you don't listen to them when they try to tell you shit. But with that being said, I know this video is a bit long, but I really just had to get all of that out. And next time somebody asks me, what the fuck do you mean you got the puborectalis? What is the puborectalis? I'm like, nigga, watch this video. Okay? So thank you guys for putting up with me and all my fucking allergies. And I didn't even show you my shirt. So the Tomie shirt, I feel like really does embody everything when it comes to like the pain of just being alive, but also the pain of being in a human body that is flawed and fallible and everything could just go wrong at any moment. So definitely wanted to get that out. Another thing, doctors have told me, you know, oh, maybe if you lose weight, you wouldn't be in so much pain. I've gotten that so much, I even forgot to bring it up because I was just like, that's not true. I lost weight. I'm still in pain. Doesn't matter. Had nothing to do with my weight, but whatever. It is what it is. I don't really listen to a lot of what the doctors say unless I've specifically chosen you as somebody who I want to listen to, because you gotta advocate for yourself with these doctors. They just gonna play you and take all your money and fuck up your credit when you don't want to give them all the money. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about on chronic illness. I might make another video about some other stuff, or even about all the different medications I've taken today. I don't keep track of them anymore. I just leave them in certain places where I know I'll see them and take them, and then I just let it go. But thank you guys for sitting through another video with me. You guys have been awesome with the comments and telling me how you feel and what you're learning. And I am so happy that I get to, like, you know, give you guys that validation about like what you're feeling, like, oh, this is me. That makes me really happy to see that, because that's all I want out of these videos, is to let people know that they're not alone, that there are other people who are going through these things, that are other people who have experienced these things, and we can all learn from each other as long as we're willing to have a much more open dialogue about it. But that's all I want to say. I love you guys. I'm gonna see you in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.